Have you ever wondered what America's first ladies do when the cameras stop rolling and the state dinners end? Behind the elegant gowns and diplomatic smiles, these remarkable women had personal passions that might shock you. From flying airplanes to collecting rare beetles, the hobbies of our first ladies reveal fascinating stories that history books often overlook. Today, we're uncovering the most unusual hobbies of every single first lady in American history. Trust me, some of these will absolutely blow your mind. Let's kick things off with Martha Washington, the very first Lady of the United States. You might picture her as a formal, traditional figure, but Martha had a surprising creative outlet: intricate embroidery and needlework. This wasn't your grandmother's casual stitching. Martha created elaborate tapestries that documented family stories and preserved memories in an era when women had virtually no public voice. Each stitch was a form of storytelling, a way to leave her mark on history when formal records ignored women's contributions. Her embroidery pieces became family heirlooms, passed down through generations as silent witnesses to early American life. Abigail Adams, wife of John Adams, was far more than just a political advisor through letters. She was a voracious reader who devoured philosophy, history, and political theory, subjects considered inappropriate for women in the late 1700s. Her personal library rivaled those of many educated men of her time. Reading wasn't just entertainment for Abigail, it was rebellion, education, and empowerment rolled into one. She'd spend hours in candlelit rooms, absorbing ideas that would later shape her famous political correspondence. This hobby gave her the intellectual ammunition to advise her husband on matters of state, making her one of the most influential women in early American politics. Fast forward to Edith Roosevelt, wife of the energetic Theodore Roosevelt. While Teddy was out hunting and exploring, Edith cultivated a different kind of wilderness: the White House gardens. But she wasn't just planting pretty flowers. Edith was a pioneer environmentalist who insisted on native plant species decades before conservation became a national concern. She studied botanical texts, corresponded with naturalists, and transformed the White House grounds into a living laboratory of American flora. Her garden became a statement about preserving America's natural heritage at a time when rapid industrialization was transforming the landscape. Now here's where things get really interesting. Eleanor Roosevelt, arguably the most famous first lady in American history, wasn't content staying on the ground. She earned her pilot's license and took to the skies. Picture this: it's the 1930s, aviation is still relatively new and incredibly dangerous, and here's the president's wife flying planes as a hobby. Eleanor saw flying as the ultimate expression of freedom and independence. She'd take flights to inspect New Deal projects across the country, combining her hobby with her political activism. Her co-pilot once said she showed absolutely no fear, even during turbulent weather. This wasn't just a hobby, it was Eleanor's way of showing American women that they could reach any height, literally and figuratively. During World War II, Bess Truman found peace in the smallest of canvases. While the world exploded around her and her husband made decisions that would shape global history, Bess painted miniature portraits. We're talking about images so tiny they required magnifying glasses to appreciate the detail. This meticulous hobby required absolute concentration and steady hands, a meditation in paint. Friends said she could work for hours without looking up, completely absorbed in creating these tiny masterpieces. It was her escape from the immense pressure of being First Lady during wartime. Jackie Kennedy revolutionized the role of First Lady, and her hobby of collecting rare antiques matched her sophisticated image. But this wasn't casual shopping. Jackie would spend months researching the provenance of pieces, hunting down furniture and art that had historical significance. She traveled to estate sales, corresponded with collectors worldwide, and built relationships with museum curators. Her ultimate goal was transforming the White House from a government building into a living museum of American history. Each piece she acquired had a story, and Jackie could tell you exactly who owned it, when it was made, and why it mattered to American heritage. Pat Nixon, often portrayed as shy and reserved, had a surprisingly bold artistic side. She didn't just collect art, she created it. Pat took formal painting and sketching classes, studying under professional artists who helped her develop her technique. She'd set up her easel in the White House and spend hours painting landscapes and portraits. What many Americans didn't know was that she occasionally exhibited her work under a pseudonym at local art shows, wanting her art judged on its merits rather than her position. Her paintings showed real talent, with a particular gift for capturing light and shadow. This creative outlet gave her a voice beyond the political sphere. Lady Bird Johnson's wildflower campaign became legendary, but the depth of her botanical knowledge is often underestimated. She could identify hundreds of native plant species by sight, knew their Latin names, understood their ecological roles, and advocated for their preservation. Her hobby involved extensive field research. She'd put on boots and wade through Texas meadows taking notes and photographs. Lady Bird corresponded with botanists, funded research, and turned her personal passion into federal legislation. The Highway Beautification Act wasn't just politics, it was her hobby becoming national policy. Driving across America today, millions of people unknowingly enjoy the fruits of her unusual passion for native wildflowers. Rosalind Carter surprised many by revealing her poetry collection late in life. Throughout her time as First Lady, dealing with intense political pressure and pioneering mental health advocacy, Rosalind quietly wrote poetry. Her verses explored themes of isolation, strength, compassion, and the burden of public service. She kept notebooks filled with poems that she rarely shared, using writing as emotional release. Years later, when some poems were published, readers discovered a deeply introspective side to the woman known primarily for her policy work. Her poetry revealed the human cost of political life and the inner world of a First Lady. Nancy Reagan's passion for horseback riding developed later in her life but became all-consuming. She took formal dressage lessons and spent hours at stables, learning proper riding technique and horse care. Nancy found that riding required complete mental focus, which gave her relief from the constant scrutiny of political life. Her instructors said she was fearless, tackling difficult jumps and challenging courses. The discipline of dressage, where horse and rider must move as one, appealed to her love of perfection and grace. Photographs of Nancy riding show a woman completely at ease, far from the polished political persona. Barbara Bush's love of reading extended beyond casual enjoyment to serious book collecting. She acquired rare first editions, specialized in American literature, and maintained detailed catalogs of her collection. Barbara could discuss the binding techniques of 19th-century books, the significance of different printings, and the historical context of various authors. Her collection included signed copies from famous American writers, and she sometimes loaned pieces to universities for exhibitions. But her favorite pastime remained crossword puzzles. She completed the New York Times crossword daily and belonged to puzzle societies. Friends joked that her vocabulary from years of puzzles made her formidable at word games. Hillary Clinton's pottery hobby emerged during her most stressful political periods. She'd retreat to a pottery studio and spend hours at the wheel, shaping clay into bowls, vases, and sculptures. The physical, tactile nature of pottery provided relief from the abstract complexities of policy debates. Hillary described the sensation of wet clay moving through her fingers as meditative and grounding. She gave many of her pieces as personal gifts, and some recipients said receiving a handmade pottery piece from the First Lady felt more intimate than any expensive political gift. The imperfections in her pottery, slightly uneven rims, unexpected glazing patterns, revealed a human side rarely visible in her public persona. Michelle Obama's love of dance went beyond exercise. It was cultural expression and joy. She grew up with music and movement as central to family gatherings, and that never left her. As First Lady, Michelle would dance at state dinners, in the White House residence, and during public events, encouraging everyone to move. She took formal dance lessons in various styles, from hip-hop to ballroom, and incorporated dance into her children's health initiatives. Videos of Michelle dancing went viral because they showed genuine happiness and abandon, breaking the formal mold of how First Ladies were supposed to behave. Melania Trump maintained a carefully curated collection of postcards and small art objects from her extensive international travels. Unlike typical souvenir collecting, Melania focused on pieces that represented local artistic traditions and cultural heritage. She kept detailed journals noting where each piece came from, the artist when known, and what it represented about that culture. Friends describe her collection as a personal museum that told the story of her journey from Slovenia to the White House. This quiet hobby reflected a contemplative side rarely seen publicly, showing genuine appreciation for global artistic traditions. Jill Biden transformed traditional gardening into educational activism. She doesn't just grow flowers, she creates learning gardens where children can understand food systems, sustainability, and environmental science. Jill plants heritage vegetables, explaining their historical significance, and uses gardening to teach math through measuring plots, science through composing, and history through discussing agricultural traditions. Her hobby merged with her lifelong passion for education, turning the White House kitchen garden into an outdoor classroom. She hosts school groups, demonstrating that gardening connects us to history, science, and community. Going back further in history, Florence Harding had perhaps the most unusual hobby for a First Lady: active involvement in her husband's newspaper business. She understood typesetting, printing presses, and newspaper operations. Florence would review layouts, suggest headlines, and engage in the business side of running a publication. This wasn't just oversight; she had genuine expertise and passion for the newspaper industry. During wartime, she redirected this energy toward organizing support for soldiers, essentially treating patriotic work as her hobby and bringing the same business acumen she developed in newspapers. Dolly Madison's passion for fashion and social entertaining wasn't mere vanity; it was strategic hobby-turned-diplomacy. She studied European fashion magazines, designed her own turbans that became iconic, and used clothing as political messaging. Dolly understood that how she dressed influenced how foreign diplomats perceived American sophistication. Her hobby of collecting fabrics, studying fashion history, and designing outfits helped establish America's cultural credibility on the world stage. She turned personal interest into soft power. Alice Roosevelt Longworth, Theodore Roosevelt's daughter who lived in the White House, maintained her spirited personality throughout life. Her hobby was collecting witty quotes and gossip, which she'd record in private journals. Alice hosted salons where Washington's political elite gathered, and she'd document the conversations, creating an unofficial historical record of political intrigue. She also loved horseback riding through Washington's parks, often racing male riders who underestimated her skill. Alice's hobbies reflected her rebellious personality and refusal to conform to expected First Lady behavior. Lou Henry Hoover's passion for geology and mineralogy was genuine scientific interest. She'd collected rock samples since childhood and continued throughout her life, amassing a significant collection with detailed notes on each specimen's origin and composition. Lou could discuss mineral formations, geological processes, and earth science with professional geologists. She also spoke multiple languages fluently and made language learning a hobby, regularly practicing and studying linguistic structures. Her intellectual hobbies made her one of the most educated First Ladies, though her contributions were often overshadowed by the political climate of the Great Depression. Grace Coolidge's musical talents extended beyond casual piano playing. She studied music theory, practiced daily, and could sight-read complex compositions. Grace would host intimate musical evenings at the White House, sometimes performing for small groups of friends. She also had an unexpected hobby: baseball fandom. Grace attended games regularly, understood the statistics and strategies, and could discuss plays with genuine expertise. This combination of refined musical talent and enthusiastic sports fandom made her uniquely relatable. These hobbies weren't just pastimes; they were windows into the souls of America's First Ladies. Each passion reflected their personalities, values, and times. From Martha Washington's embroidery preserving family history to Jill Biden's educational gardens shaping young minds, these unusual hobbies remind us that First Ladies were complex individuals whose personal interests often influenced American culture in subtle but profound ways. The next time you think about the White House, remember it's been home to pilots, poets, painters, gardeners, collectors, athletes, and creators, women whose unusual hobbies enriched not only their own lives but American history itself. Thanks for joining this journey through the unexpected passions of America's First Ladies. If you enjoyed these stories, hit that like button, subscribe for more fascinating historical content, and drop a comment telling us which First Lady's hobby surprised you most. See you in the next video.